This is Todd, back in the Victory 4x4 garage. Today, we're going to be installing this roof rack on a 5th generation Toyota 4Runner. Now this customer had already removed their stock rails, so we're going to go ahead and show you that process on Camerons.
You can just use a plastic pry tool like this. There's going to be a clip about 1/3 of the way in on each side. So you'll just get under there, pop that clip, and then you can tilt it back and pull that off. Do that for all 4 caps. Once you have the caps off, you can go ahead and remove the rails with the 12mm socket. And then go ahead and remove the rails.
So we've laid out all the parts and pieces you're going to get with your roof rack kit. Now we do have the front fairing is one for a light bar. We do have the light bar mounts also. Included in your kit, you're going to get 2 side rails, 8 center rails, a front and rear fairing, a hardware kit, and mounts. Now we're going to talk about the mounts for just a second. The rear mounts are symmetrical. They don't really matter. Your mid and your front mounts do matter which side you put them on. Your middle mounts, you need to make sure that they are pointed forward, and the same with the front mounts. The notch is going to go towards the front. On the crossbars, I do want to point out there are 2 slots in the rails. You want to make sure that you have those pointed up, and to make it easier on yourself, put them all on one side. It doesn't really matter if you have them driver's side or passenger side. You just want to make sure they're all on top and they're all on the same side. Now, the next step is going to be installing the cross rails onto the side rails. We recommend doing one side first and then going and doing the other side. You want to make sure that you don't tighten these up all the way. Go ahead, just put them on, leave them loose. That way you have room to move everything. You're going to use the 3/4 inch button head bolts. You're going to make sure and put the washer on them also. It's really simple. Just simply come through your side panel. The first 1 or 2 are always the pain in the butt. This is significantly easier to do if you can use both of your thumbs. Okay, once you've got one started, it becomes a little bit easier to get the second one in. Okay, bring them close, and then that way it'll help hold and support the rack. Go ahead and put all the rest of them in on both sides. Next, we're going to put the fairings on. Start out, bolt with a washer on it, put it through, start the nut on the back side here, and then go ahead, roll it up, do the other 2. Now the same with all of the crossbars. You want to leave all of these nuts and bolts loose so that you can move this fairing up and down. This is again easier with the working thumb. Okay, go ahead and do the same on the other side. And then the rear fairing is the same. You just have 2 instead of 3 bolts. Now, because we're going to be taping the body underneath our fairing, we want to have this adjusted as far up as it can go. That way, when we install it, we have room to be able to work. So pull this all the way to the top, and then you're going to just snug these bolts up. Now, you don't need to hammer these things down tight, just snug enough that the fairing doesn't fall down. Once you have that done, we're going to go ahead and prep our front mounts. You're going to take these little rubber pieces, and then we found that if you twist them as you're installing them, that you can get them. Now you might have to wiggle the top here just to make sure and get the full piece there, but take both of these and twist them up in, and then again the angle goes towards the front. Going to take another 3/4 with the washer, insert it in, put your mount, then using your good thumb, and then do the same with the back bolt. Okay, now the mid and the rear mount bolt on exactly the same. They just do not have the rubber feet on them. These, again, you're going to leave a little loose because we're going to need room to move everything around when we put it on the vehicle. Now it is worth noting that these rear have the 2 round with the lettering, and the top has this V with the 2 slots. The slotted is the part that you're mounting to the side panel. Okay, now we're going to do the same with our rear fairing as we did the front, where we push it all the way up and snug it. So we flipped our rack over, and next we're going to put the edge trim on. On the front here, we're going to go past the 2 points here. So go just a little bit past that point, and then push it down on. I like to go through and just get it all started because we're going to need to cut this edge over here. Now, this is reinforced with a layer of aluminum, so you're going to need something stiffer, like a pair of tin snips. There you can see that aluminum that poked through. And then once you have it cut to length, go ahead and push it all the way down, all the way across. Okay, now we're going to take this piece and put it on the rear fairing. Now we're going to take our piece and cut it roughly in half. I say roughly because I'm not measuring it. If you'd like to measure it and put it exactly, by all means. And then we're going to take the 2 pieces and we're going to put them over the point here in the rear. Same as the front, just go ahead and push it all the way down. Okay, now we're ready to install it on the vehicle. Next, we're going to be installing our 40-inch light bar with the supplied brackets. With the T-slots in our extrusion here, you need to make sure that you're putting the far side on first versus the near side. Otherwise, you'll have to take it all back apart. You're going to start out by inserting the T-nuts. Now, you can either slide these all the way down and then work on them on the other side, or you can work on them on this side and then slide the whole unit down. For the sake of the video, we're going to go ahead and install it all here. Simply take the short screws, screw it down into the T-nut. Okay, once you've got both sides started, go ahead and slide it all the way down. Now, I want to point out on these light brackets that the bend is going to go underneath the fairing on this side. So you're going to want to make sure that you have them installed properly on the side that they are going to go on. Next, we're going to be installing the bar on the brackets. Now, we recommend running it down the driver's side. Your electrically are just, it's closer to the battery. It's a little easier to wire up. Now, included in the light bar kit, if you got it from us, are these metal washers. We recommend putting those on the outside there. And then the nut that comes with it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and snug this up. We're going to try to have it back just a little bit, but centered. Once we have this installed fully, have our fairing where we want it to be, we can make any final adjustments. So next, to prepare to put this on the vehicle, we need to remove this trim piece. It's quite simple. Once you have the mounts off here, grip it and rip it. There is a little bit of tape here, a little clip, but as you can see, comes right out. Now the reason we had to take this out is we are going to actually trim this around our front mount and reinstall it later. Now to make room for our mid mount, we are going to have to trim a little bit of this piece here. Now I do want to point out, if you are going to want to be able to revert back to stock, you can simply remove these pieces and just leave them out. We're trying to fill the space in the tray, so we're going to go ahead and trim them and put them back in. Now this one, you're going to measure 4 inches from the little plastic poking up here. Just take and measure 4 inches back. And make a mark. That is where we are going to cut this piece. Now to cut this, we're going to go ahead and just use some tin snips. Okay, now that we have our trim pieces trimmed up and out of the way, we're going to go ahead and apply silicone on top of the holes here. We just use Ultra Black RTV. The object is to goop this on here pretty good. This is what's going to stop the rain and water from coming into your vehicle. So you want to make sure you get that really well. Go ahead and do that for all 4 mounts. Okay, now that we've got all of these siliconed, we can go ahead and set the rack up here. Okay, once you have the rack up, using a couple people to get it in place is usually better. You're going to use a 5mm Allen and then go through the silicone here. Go ahead and start both of them. And then go ahead and snug them up. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do the other 3 mounts. Okay, up here in the front, you might have to adjust your fairing up or down a little bit. And your front mount here, you actually want to pay attention that you're getting it down inside the channel. If you just push it down, it might sit on top of the sides here. So just wiggle it back and forth and make sure you're actually seating it down inside the channel against the bottom. Once you have it where you want and you have the rest of the rack leveled, go ahead and tighten up these bolts. So the next thing we're going to do is apply some 3M clear paint protective film. We do that just because any dirt that can get trapped in here can scratch through your paint just a little bit. So we do recommend that you get this. We like the wider stuff. It's a little easier to apply. What we're going to do is apply this from side to side across the front. Now we don't really have the room to get under there to apply this. So once we have it figured out where we're going to be, we're going to go ahead and take the bottom 2 bolts out. We're going to rotate our fairing up out of the way, apply the tape, put it back down, put the bolts back in, adjust it up and down where we want, and then tighten it all up. Now to offer the best chance of adhesion for our tape, we are going to go ahead and wipe the paint down. So just make sure it's clean before you put the tape on. Okay, we went ahead and applied our tape. We put our fairing back down, shoved it down into the body, and adjusted and tightened the bolts on the side. Now, you're going to repeat this process in the rear. You are only going to do the 2 sides where you have the rubber. Then we move on to the light. You have a combination of the bolt with the light on the bracket and the crossbar itself for getting your forward and back adjustment. We have our light all the way forward on this one, and then you want to take your crossbars and you want to make sure that the brackets inside here are not touching the fairing. So we're back about, 1/8 of an inch or so. We're going to go ahead and tighten up our side brackets here. Then go ahead and tighten up the top T-slots. Then go ahead and do it on the other side. Also, making sure that your light nut is tight as well if you don't have that done already. The final step in the installation of your roof rack is the adjustment of your crossbars. Now, we prefer to try to just put them in the middle because it looks a little better. If you need to move them forward or back for whatever you're putting on for spacing, feel free to do that. Anywhere within the range, go ahead and tighten them all up. One other thing that we do recommend is the very last step. Just double check that the rubber feet of these front mounts are still down inside. It is possible after you have everything done for them to move just a little bit, and you want to make sure they are fully seated against the roof. Now, if you have any questions on this or any of the other Victory 4x4 products, don't hesitate to reach out, give us a call at 269-459-8447, or shoot us an email at info@victory4x4.com.